Hello, students. From this lecture, we have started the threats to biodiversity. In the previous part of this lecture, we have discussed that what are the threats to biodiversity, how we are poaching the trees and animals, and we have discussed the endangered plant species. In this lecture, we will discuss about the common animal species which are endangered or toward the process of endangered. And we will discuss the in situ and ex situ conservation. So, common animal species is that the first is mammals. The common deer species found in India include sambar, cheetal, barasinga, and barking deer. Sambar live in a small family parties, especially in hilly forest area, and feed mainly on shrubs and leaves of low branches. They are dark brown in color and have large thick antlers. Each have 3 branches. Cheetal or spotted deer live in large herd in forest clearing where they graze on the grass. They have a rust brown body with white spots with camouflage them in the forest. Each antler has 3 branches called tines. The blackbuck. Blackbuck is the only true antelope found in India. It lives in large herds. The males are black on top and cream below and have beautiful spiral horns that form a V shape. The chinkara, also known as the Indian gazelle, in a smaller animal and is pale brown in color. It has beautiful curved horns. The rare Chosinga or four-horned antelope is the only animal in the world has 4 horns. Then comes the rare Hangul deer. Hangul deer is found only in Kashmir. It has a magnificent spread of antlers with 6 branches on each antler. The Barasinga or swamp deer has wide hoofs that enable this beautiful animal to live in boggy area of the Tarai. Each antler has 6 or more branches. The tiny barking deer lives in many forest areas all over India. It has 2 ridges on its face and a short antler with only 2 branches. Its call sound like the bark of a dog. The Nilgai. Nilgai is the largest of the dryland herbivores. The whales are blue-gray. Nilgai have white markings on the legs and head. They have short, strong, spike-like horns. A very special, rare species is the Indian wild ash, endemic to the Little Ran of Kutch. Himalayan pastures support several species of wild goats and sheep, many of them restricted to the region, like the Goral and the Himalayan Tahar. A single species, the Nilgiri Thar, is found in Nilgiri and Annamalai hills in South India. The rhinoceros is now restricted to Assam but was once found throughout the Gangetic Plains. The wild buffalo is now also restricted to the Tarai. The elephant is distributed in the northeastern and southern states. It is threatened by habitat loss and poaching for ivory. Gaur is found in patches in several well wooded parts of India. The best known predator of our forest is the tiger. Its gold and black stripes hide it perfectly in the forest undergrowth. It preys on herbivores such as sambar or cheetal or less frequently on domestic animals. The tiger kills only 3 or 4 times a month. Its numbers have declined due to poaching for its superb skin and for the supposed magical value of its teeth, claw, and whiskers. In the recent past, it has been extensively killed for the supposed medicinal properties of its bones that are used in Chinese medicine. The Asiatic lion is now found only in the Gir forests of Gujarat. The leopard is more adaptable than the tiger and lives both in thick forest and degraded forest area. Its beautiful ring-like markings camouflage it so perfectly that its prey, cannot see its stealthy approach. The smaller jungle cat, which is a light brown animal, and the leopard cat, which is a little bigger than domestic cat and are very rare. The most typical predator of the Himalayas is the snow leopard, which is very rare and poached for its beautiful skin, which is pale gray with dark gray rings like markings. Then comes the wolf, jackal, fox, and the wild dog or dhole form a group called canids. Another threatened predator is the Himalayan wolf. The wolves are now highly threatened as they have become increasingly depend on shepherds' flock. Thus, shepherds constantly find ways to kill the wolves. One of the common monkey species of the forest is the bonnet macaque, which has a rat face, a very long tail, and a whorl of hair on the scalp, which looks like a cap. Our other common monkeys is the rhesus macaque, which is smaller and has a shorter tail than the bonnet. A rare macaque is the lion-tailed macaque found only in few forests of the southern Western Ghats and Annamalai ranges. It is black in color, has long hair, a gray mane, and a tassel at the end of its tail that looks like a lion's tail. The common langur has a black face and is known as the Hanuman monkey. The rare golden langur is golden yellow in color and lives along the banks of the Manas River in Assam. The Cape langur is an uncommon species of northeast India. The rare black Nilgiri langur lives in the southern western Ghats, Nilgiris, and Annamalais. Then comes the birds. There are over 1,200 bird species found in India in different habitats. Most of our forest birds are especially adapted to life in certain forest types. Some Himalayan species, however, can also be seen in the Western Ghats. There are several species of hornbills that live on fruit. They have heavy curved beaks with a projection on top. Frugivores such as parakeets, barbets, and bulbuls live on fruit and are often seen eating ficus fruits, such as those of banyan and peepal. Insectivorous birds of many species live on forest insects. They include various species of flycatchers, bee eaters, and others. The male paradise flycatcher is a small, beautiful white bird with a black head and two long, white, trailing tail feathers. The female is brown and does not have the long tail feathers. There are several eagles, falcons, and kites, many of which are now endangered. Grasslands support many species of birds. The most threatened species is the great Indian bustard, a large brown stately bird with long legs which struts about through grasslands looking for locusts and grasshoppers. Another rare group of threatened birds are the floricans. There are many species of quails, partridges, larks, hunias, and other grain-eating birds that are adapted to grasslands. There are several species of aquatic birds such as waders, gulls, and terns, which live along the seashore and go out fishing many kilometers to the sea. Many of these birds have lost their coastal habitats due to problem of pollution. Many aquatic birds live in fresh water and are those with long legs and typically known as waders, such as sills and sandpipers. The other group of birds that swim on water, such as several species of ducks and geese. There are many species of spectacular large birds associated with water or marshy areas. These include different species of storks, cranes, spoonbills, flamingo, and pelicans. Many aquatic species are migrants. They breed in northern Europe or Siberia and come to India in thousands during winter. India has a wide variety of lizards, snakes, and turtles with a high level of endemism. The lizards include the common garden lizard, fan-throated lizard, chameleon, skink, common monitor, and water monitor. Some of these are threatened due to trade in reptile skills. Inland snakes include the rock python, bristle viper, and the vine snake. We rarely appreciate the fact that only a few species of snakes are poisonous and most snakes are harmless. The star tortoise and Travancore tortoise are now rare. The olive ridley and flapshell turtle are the well-known turtles of India. Many turtles are becoming increasingly rare due to poaching of adults and eggs. The crocodile is our largest reptile, which is posed for its prize skin. The gharial is endemic to India and is highly threatened. Amphibia. Most of the amphibians are found in India are frogs and toads. These include several species like the Indian bullfrog, tree frog, etc. These amphibians are mostly found in the hotspot in the northeast and western Ghats. It is now thought that global warming and increasing levels of UV radiations may be seriously affecting amphibians population in some area. Invertebrates. Invertebrates include a variety of taxa that inhabit both terrestrial and aquatic ecosystems. Microscopic animals like protozoa and zooplanktons form the basis of the food chain in aquatic habitats. Corals is formed by colonies of polyp-like animals. Worms, mollusks, snail, spider, crabs, jellyfish, octopus are a few of the better known invertebrates found in India. There are more than 1 million insect species on the earth that are known to science. They include grasshoppers, bugs, beetles, ants, bees, butterflies, and moths. India is rich in its butterfly and moth species. Marine life. Marine ecosystems are most frequently associated with fish and crustacea like crabs and shrimps, which we use as food. The other species that are endangered include the marine turtles, which are reptiles, and whales that are mammals. There are a large number of species of freshwater fish found in our Indian rivers and lakes that are now threatened by the introduction of fish from abroad as well as due to being introduced from one river to another. Fish are also now seriously affected by the problem of pollution. Marine fisheries are being overharvested in our coastal waters, and the fish catch has decreased seriously over the last few years. Mechanized boats with giant small mesh nets are a major cause of depleting this resource. There are many endangered fish, such as mashi, which once grew to over a meter in length. Many species of marine animals, such as the whales, sharks, and dolphins that live in the Indian Ocean, are now threatened by extinction due to fishing in the deep sea. Then comes the conservation of biodiversity in the form of in situ and ex situ conservation. In situ conservation. Biodiversity at all levels, genetic, species, and as intact ecosystem can be best preserved in situ by setting aside an adequate representation of wilderness as protected areas. That should, these should consist of a network of national parks and wildlife sanctuaries, with each distinctive ecosystem included in the network. Such a network would preserve the total diversity of life of a region. In the past, national parks and the sanctuaries in India were notified to preserve major wildlife species such as tigers, lions, elephants, and deer. The objective of these are the objective of these areas should be expanded to the preservation of relatively intact natural ecosystems, where biological diversity from microscopic unicellular plants, and animals to the giant trees and major mammals can all be preserved. However, species cannot be protected individually as they are all interdependent on each other. Thus, the whole ecosystem must be protected. The biologist viewpoint deals with areas that are relatively species rich or those where rare, threatened, or endangered species are found for those with endemic species which are not found elsewhere. As rare endemic species are found only in a small area, these easily become extinct due to human activity. Such areas must be given an added importance as their biodiversity is a special feature of the region. Animals such as elephant require different types of habitat to feed in during different seasons. They utilize open grasslands after the rains when the young grass shoots are highly nutritious. As the grasses dry, the elephants move into the forest to feed on foliage from the trees. A protected area that is meant to protect elephants must therefore be large enough and include diverse habitat types to support a complete complement of inner-linked species. Wild sanctuaries and national parks of India. There are 589 protected areas in India, of which 89 are national parks and 500 are wild sanctuaries. They include a variety of ecosystems and habitats. Some have been created in order to protect highly endangered species of wild plants and animals found nowhere else in the world. The Great Himalayan National Park is the largest sanctuary in this ecosystem and one of the last homes of the beautiful snow leopard. Dachigam Sanctuary is the only place where the rare Hangul or Kashmir stag is found. There are several sanctuaries in the Tarai region. Kaziranga National Park is the most famous, which has elephant, wild buffalo, gaur, wild boar, swamp deer, and hog deer in large number, as well as tiger and leopard. Its bird life is extremely rich and includes ducks, geese, pelicans, and storks. The Manas Sanctuary, in addition to the above Tarai species, also include the rare golden langur and the very rare pygmy hog, the smallest wild boar in the world. The florican is found only in few undisturbed grassland in the Tarai sanctuaries. In the Sal forest of Madhya Pradesh, there are several protected areas where Kana offers a wonderful opportunity to observe wild tigers from elephants' back. It is the only protected area in which a subspecies of Barasinga is found. Bharatpur is one of the most famous water bird sanctuaries in the world. Thousands of ducks, geese, herons, and other wading birds can be seen there. This is the only home of the very rare Siberian crane, which migrates to India every winter. During the last 20 years, the 30 or 40 Siberian crane have dwindled to only two or three. During 2002 to 3, no cranes were seen, and it is possible that this beautiful bird will never again come to India. In the Thar Desert, the wildlife is protected in the Desert National Park. Here, large number of blackbuck, nilgai, and chinkara can be seen. The great Indian bustard lives in these arid lands. Ranthambore was the most well-known sanctuary for observing tigers in the wild till about 3 or 4 years ago. Since then, many tigers have been killed by poachers. The great and the little ran of Kutch have been made into sanctuaries to protect the very rare wild ash, the flamingo, the star tortoise, and the desert fox. In Gujarat, the Gir sanctuary protects the last population of the majestic Asiatic lion. This thorn and deciduous forest is also the home of large herds of cheetal, sambar, and nilgai. The sanctuaries of the Western Ghats and associated hill ranges protected some of the most diverse forest type in the country. The few examples of highly threatened species include the Malabar giant squirrel, the flying squirrel, and a variety of hill birds. Several species of amphibians, reptiles, and insects. These regions are also rich in highly endemic plant life. Sanctuaries such as Bhimashankar, Koyana, Chandoli, and Radhanagri preserve this rich flora in Maharashtra. Bandipur, Bhadra, Dandeli, Nagarhole, etc. in Karnataka, and Eraviculum, Prembiculum, Periyar, Silent Valley in Kerala. The great and the little ran of Kutch have been made into sanctuaries to protect the very rare wild ash, the flamingo, the star tortoise, and the desert fox. In Gujarat, the Gir sanctuary protects the last population of the majestic Asian lion. This thorn and deciduous forest is also the home of large herds of cheetal, sambar, and nilgai. The sanctuaries of the Western Ghats are associated hill ranges, protect some of the most diverse forest type in the country. The few examples of highly threatened species include the Malabar giant squirrel, the flying squirrel, and a variety of hill birds. Several species of amphibians, reptiles, and insects. These regions are also rich in highly endemic plant life. The need for an integrated protects area system, also known as IPAS. Protected areas to be effective must be established in every biogeographic region. A relatively larger representation must be included for highly fragile ecosystem. Areas of high species diversity or high endemism. Protected areas also be integrated with each other by establishing corridors between adjacent areas wherever possible so that wildlife can move between them. In our country, which has a rapidly growing human population, it is not easily feasible to set aside more and more land to create protected areas. The need to provide a greater amount of land for agricultural and other needs has become an increasing cause of concern in land and resource management. This form a major impediment for creating new protected areas. Having said this, there is an urgent need to add to our protected areas to preserve our very rich biological diversity. Much of the natural wilderness has already undergone extensive changes. The residual areas that have high level of species richness, endemism, or endangered plants and animals must be notified as national parks and wildlife sanctuaries. Other areas can be made into community conserved areas which are managed by local people. The International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. It states that it is essential to include at least 10% of all ecosystems as protected areas if biodiversity is to be conserved in the long term. India has only 5% of land in its 589 protected areas in 2004. However, much of this includes plantation of sal or tea, which were developed for timber in the past and are thus relatively poor in diversity and have a low level of naturalness. There are only there are only a few good grasslands left in our country that are notified as protected areas. Some are overgrazed wastelands in areas that were once flourishing grasslands. Most of these areas have a low biological value and need careful management to allow them to revert to a more natural state with their full complement of plants and animals. Only a few wetlands have been made into sanctuaries. These require better management, a major strategy to reduce impacts on the biodiversity of the piece should be to provide a sustainable source of resource for local people living around them. A protected area curtails their traditional grazing practices and access fuel wood sources. These resources must be provided by developing them in buffer areas. Plantations of fuel wood and good grassland management in areas outside protected areas can help reduce the pressure on the habitat of wildlife in the protected area. Management must ensure that people derive a direct economic benefit from the presence of the PA, involving local people in protected area management and developing tourist facilities that supports the income generation for local people helps in involving their support for the protected areas. A carefully designed management plan which incorporates an eco-development component aimed at providing a source of fuel wood, fodder, and alternate income generation for local people is an important aspect of PA management. There are several species of plants and animals that survive without protection outside our current network of PAS. It is not practical to notify more PAS without affecting the lives of people. Alternate strategies such as community reserve or community conserved areas need to be created. There, it should be managed by local people to bring about the conservation of biodiversity while using the area's resources in an equitable and sustainable way. A community conserved area must have specific conservation goals that can be achieved without compromising the area's utilitarian potential. A major drive for conservation of biological diversity can only come from a mass environmental education program on the value of protecting our dwindling biological resources. So, students, in the part 2 of this lecture, we have discussed the threats to biodiversity, various animals, birds, fishes, which are toward the endangered, and what are the action plans which should be taken by the government to reduce the threats to the biodiversity. Now, in the next part, or in the next lecture, we will discuss the another mode of the conservation and another ways to reduce the threats to biodiversity. Thank you.